The Bhagavad Gita Decoded, an esoteric guide to the war within the soul. An audiobook. What if the most famous battle in all of spiritual literature never happened on a physical field at all? What if the vast army, the conch shells, the divine chariot, and the anguish of the warrior Arjuna were not records of an ancient war, but a meticulously crafted allegory, a map of consciousness itself? We are about to embark on a journey into the hidden architecture of the soul, using the Bhagavad Gita not as a religious text, but as a master blueprint for the ultimate inner revolution. This is not about ancient India. It is about you here now in the silent, desperate battlefield of your own mind at the precipice of a choice that defines a human life. The Gita's secret is this: the war is always internal, the enemies are your own latent tendencies, and the prize is the sovereign self. Forget everything you think you know about this scripture. We are peeling back the literal veneer to reveal a living, breathing esoteric manual. The character Krishna is not a deity in a distant myth. He is the symbol of the immortal, guiding consciousness within you, the true self that waits, patient and omnipresent, behind the curtain of your personality. Arjuna, the archer in crisis, is the human soul, the aspect of you that is entangled in duty, fear, and identity, standing in the chariot of the body. The chariot itself is a profound metaphor. The body is the vehicle, the 5 horses are the senses, the reins are the mind, and the charioteer Krishna is the divine intelligence that must seize control. The field of Kurukshetra, then, is not a geographical location. It is the Dharmakshetra, the field of righteousness, which exists within your own awareness. It is the inner landscape where the eternal conflict between light and shadow, evolution and inertia, truth and illusion, plays out every single moment. The 2 armies arrayed for battle represent the polarized forces of your own nature. On one side, the Pandavas, the sons of Dharma or righteousness, are the elevating qualities: discernment, discipline, compassion, courage, and the yearning for liberation. Arrayed against them, the Kauravas, the 100 sons of blindness, are the descending tendencies: greed, anger, delusion, attachment, ego, and the compulsive pull of the lower self. This is the war within the soul. Arjuna's despair, his refusal to fight, is not pacifism. It is the soul's deep fatigue, its paralyzing confusion when faced with the terrifying responsibility of its own evolution. To slay your kin, as the story demands, is the most radical spiritual instruction. It means to confront and dissolve those very aspects of yourself that you have nurtured, identified with, and called your own, your inherited beliefs, your compulsive desires, your cherished resentments. They feel like family, and to engage in this battle feels like self-annihilation. But Krishna's ensuing discourse is a revelation that this battle is the only path to true self-realization. We begin at this moment of supreme crisis, where all familiar ground falls away. This is the necessary dark night before the dawn of wisdom, the point where the soul can no longer proceed under its old operating system. Arjuna drops his legendary bow, the Gandiva, a symbol of his will and agency. He slumps into the chariot, which is the station of the body, and declares he will not fight. This is the moment of absolute spiritual vulnerability. And it is precisely here, in the crucible of complete surrender, that the voice of the inner guide can finally be heard. The external war is merely the trigger. The real dialogue is about to begin within. Chapter 1. The Field of Inner Conflict. The genius of the Gita's opening is its psychological precision. It does not begin with a divine revelation or a serene teaching. It begins with a cry of utter dejection. Arjuna, the greatest of warriors, commands his charioteer Krishna to place his vehicle between the 2 vast armies. He wants to see with unequivocal clarity exactly whom he is being asked to fight. And what he sees is not an opposing force of evil, but a mirror of his own attachments. He sees his teachers, his elders, his cousins, his kin. These are not abstract enemies. They are the living embodiments of his own past, his obligations, his loves, and his social identity. In that moment, the entire external justification for war collapses inward. His bow slips from his hand because his sense of self has slipped from its moorings. This is the first necessary cracking of the ego shell, the moment when the soul's anguish becomes more powerful than its conditioning. Consider your own inner Kurukshetra. Your Kauravas are not cartoonish villains, they are the sophisticated, familiar voices of your own lower nature. The voice that rationalizes procrastination as rest, that disguises fear as practicality, that clothes selfish desire in the garb of need. They are your own kin, patterns you have fed and watered since childhood. To go to war against them feels like self-betrayal, because on some level you believe they are you. Arjuna's physical trembling and mental collapse are metaphors for that visceral recoil we feel when asked to transcend our deepest habits. The path of true growth asks us to become strangers to the very person we have worked so hard to build, and the terror of that dissolution is the first great obstacle. Krishna, as the silent charioteer, does not intervene at first. He simply obeys Arjuna's command and positions the chariot. The inner guide, your higher consciousness, does not force its wisdom upon you. It waits, present and available, until you consciously turn to it in a state of authentic inquiry. It respects your free will, even your despair. Arjuna must exhaust all his intellectual and emotional arguments, must reach the very bottom of his conceptual understanding before he can become a receptive vessel. His famous lament is not weakness. It is the essential, fiery fuel of spiritual seeking. Only when the pain of staying the same exceeds the fear of the unknown does the real quest begin. His arguments are profound and they echo in the modern soul. He speaks of the sin of killing, of the collapse of societal order, of the tears that will stain the victory. He is a moral philosopher, seeing cause and effect in a linear, worldly frame. But Krishna will soon reveal a vision that transcends this frame entirely. From the higher perspective, the immutable self is never born and never dies. The battle, then, is not about the destruction of beings, but the transmutation of energies. The killing is the dissolution of illusions. Yet one cannot jump to this conclusion. The soul must wrestle in the darkness of its own ethical confusion first. This chapter validates our human struggle. It dignifies our confusion as a necessary stage. The setting is thus perfectly arranged. The soul, embodied as Arjuna, stands in the vehicle of the body on the field of its own life's duty, surrounded by the conflicted aspects of its own psyche. It has looked directly at the cost of its evolution and has been paralyzed by it. It has dropped the weapon of its will. This paralysis, this vishada, is the fertile ground for the teachings to come. The battlefield is silent, waiting. The outer world has receded. All that exists is the conflicted individual and the silent, waiting presence of the divine within. This is the most intimate and universal of scenes. It plays out in the therapist's office, in the midnight of insomnia, in the quiet moment after a great failure or loss. It is the human spirit, cornered by its own awareness and finally ready to ask the real questions. Therefore, see this opening not as a historical prelude but as a meditation. Where in your life right now do you stand in the chariot, trembling? Where are you faced with a choice that seems to demand you betray one part of yourself for another? That is your Kurukshetra. That tension is not a mistake, it is the sacred ground. The moment you feel that deep, unresolvable conflict, know that you are precisely where you need to be. The charioteer is waiting. The dialogue can begin only when you, like Arjuna, finally turn from staring at the overwhelming external problem and instead look inward and speak from the depth of your soul, saying, "My will is paralyzed. I am your disciple. Please instruct me." This surrender is not an act of defeat, but the ultimate act of intelligence. It is the recognition that the problem cannot be solved at the level of the mind that created it. A higher faculty must be invoked. The rest of the Gita is that invocation, a systematic unveiling of the architecture of reality and the soul's place within it. We are about to ascend from the psychology of conflict to the metaphysics of liberation. The war is internal, but the stakes are cosmic. The first step is to acknowledge the battlefield, not with fear, but with the solemn recognition that it is the only place where true victory can be won. The outer world is merely its reflection. The foundation of wisdom, Sankhya Yoga. When Arjuna finally falls silent, his eloquent despair spent, he does not receive comfort, he receives a shock. Krishna's first words are not a gentle reassurance but a stern catalytic rebuke. He calls Arjuna's state of sorrow unworthy of a noble person, a dead end that leads neither to heaven nor to honor. This is the voice of your higher consciousness cutting through self-pity. It is the sudden inner jolt that says, enough, this paralysis is a luxury you cannot afford. The true friend, the true guide, does not coddle the ego, he shatters its pretenses to force a fundamental shift in perspective. Krishna begins not with spirituality, but with a stark reminder of dharma, of one's sacred duty according to one's nature. Before soaring into metaphysics, the soul must be grounded in right action. This is the pivotal turn from problem to solution. Krishna introduces the core esoteric wisdom known as Sankhya, the yoga of discernment between the eternal and the temporary. He does not yet offer complex techniques, he offers a revelation so profound it reorients everything. He tells Arjuna, the wise do not grieve for the living or the dead. At face value, this seems cold, inhuman, but esoterically it is the key to liberation. Krishna is not dismissing love or feeling, he is pointing to a foundational law of existence. The self, the Atman, is immutable, indestructible, and beyond the birth-death cycle. The body is worn-out clothing, the wearer changes garments. Grief, fear, and attachment are born from the fundamental error of identifying the eternal self with the temporary costume it wears. Imagine standing before the ocean, fixated on a single wave, its rise, its crest, its crash upon the shore. You mourn its end. But the ocean, the vast, deep, boundless substrate, remains, eternally generating new waves. Your sorrow is based on a misperception. You have mistaken the waveform for the water itself. Krishna's teaching is an invitation to shift your identity from the wave to the ocean. Your thoughts, emotions, and physical body are the waves, constantly changing, arising, and subsiding. Your true nature is the ocean of pure, conscious being that witnesses it all. This realization is not an intellectual concept. It is a direct, experiential knowing that dissolves the root of fear. If you are not the body that can be harmed, then what is there to fear on any battlefield? From this bedrock understanding, Krishna outlines the stance of the Asthita Prajna, the person of steady wisdom. This is the portrait of the integrated human being, the goal of the entire inner war. Such a person is not an unfeeling automaton, but one whose inner landscape is no longer storm-tossed by external events. Pleasure and pain come and go like winter and summer. They are registered by the senses but do not shake the inner citadel. Desire, the relentless agitation for something other than what is, has been stilled in its very source. This is not repression. It is a state where the soul rests in its own fullness, so the compulsive need to extract happiness from the world simply falls away. The analogy is perfect. As the ocean remains undisturbed by the rivers flowing into it, so the wise remain unmoved by the flow of sensory desires. But how does one achieve this steadiness? Here, Krishna introduces the practical cornerstone, the yoga of selfless action, karma yoga. This is the bridge between the lofty vision of the eternal self and the gritty reality of living in the world. You cannot simply abstain from action. The very nature of life is dynamic. The solution is to perform your necessary duties, but to relinquish attachment to the fruits of those actions. Offer the results, whatever they may be, to the divine principle, to the cosmic order. This act of inner offering severs the binding chain of karma. When you act without the feverish anxiety for a specific outcome, your action becomes pure, efficient, and free. The battlefield action is thus reframed. Arjuna must fight not because he desires victory or fears defeat, but because fighting is the duty of a warrior. The outcome belongs to a higher law. This is the secret to navigating the modern world without being consumed by it. Your job, your relationships, your creative projects, these are your contemporary Kurukshetra. Engage in them fully with excellence, but do not stake your inner peace on the results. Success and failure become relative feedback, not definitions of your worth. This detachment is not indifference. It is the profound engagement that comes from freedom. You work not for the applause, nor the paycheck, nor the fear of scarcity, but because the work itself, done with integrity, is an offering. This breaks the soul-crushing cycle of expectation and disappointment, of craving and aversion that constitutes most of human suffering. You become a conscious instrument of a larger will. Thus, Chapter 2 lays the unshakable foundation. First, the shift in identity. You are not the perishable, you are the eternal. Second, the shift in attitude. Engage in life fully but without the binding glue of personal desire for gain. This twin realization is the sword that cuts the soul free. Arjuna is given the ultimate why and the essential how. The remainder of the Gita will elaborate, deepen, and provide various paths, but this is the core. It asks the ultimate question of you. Can you live in the world fulfilling your obligations while holding in your heart the unshakable knowledge that your essence is untouched by any of it? Can you fight your inner battles with courage, yet know the warrior himself is eternal? This is the beginning of fearlessness. This is where the real war turns from a burden into a sacred, liberating dance. The yoga of sacred action, karma yoga. Arjuna, now glimpsing the grandeur of the eternal self, poses a question that resonates in every seeker's heart. If wisdom, the realization of this immutable oneness, is supreme, then why engage in action at all? Why not renounce the world, sit in silent meditation, and transcend the messy fray of life? This is the siren call of spiritual bypassing, the temptation to use transcendence as an escape. Krishna's response is a thunderous affirmation of life as the arena of transformation. He states unequivocally that no one can remain without action, even for a moment. Everything in the universe is driven by the gunas, the qualities of nature in perpetual motion. To claim stillness while the body lives and the mind churns is a hypocrisy of the highest order. The true renunciation is not of action, but of the ownership of action. This is the profound pivot from escapism to enlightened engagement. Krishna reveals that action performed as a sacred duty, without attachment, is itself a form of worship, a yajna or sacrifice. In the ancient Vedic sense, a sacrifice was an act that fed the cosmic order. Esoterically, every selfless action you perform becomes an offering that sustains the harmony of the whole. Your work, your care for others, your daily discipline, when done in the spirit, cease to be mundane tasks and become rituals that weave you into the fabric of a living universe. The alternative is a spiritual disaster, inaction born of ignorance which not only fails to liberate but actively binds the soul in knots of tamas, the energy of stagnation and delusion. The path does not lead away from the world but straight through its fiery heart. Krishna then unveils a cosmic law of profound importance. All life exists in a great cycle of mutual sacrifice. The rains sacrifice themselves to nourish the earth sacrifices to nourish plants, plants nourish animals, and so on. This perpetual offering is the very engine of life. When a human being breaks this cycle, living only to consume for selfish pleasure, they live in vain. They become a thief, stealing from the cosmic flow without contributing anything back. Your duty, your svadharma, is your unique point of contribution to this vast, interdependent system. To abandon it under the guise of spirituality is to starve the world of your gift and to starve your own soul of its purpose. The battlefield, therefore, is not an interruption of spiritual life. It is the spiritual life of a warrior. But who is the actor? This is the crucial esoteric key. The sense of being a separate doer is the central illusion. Krishna explains that action is perpetually being performed by the gunas of nature. Your body-mind complex is a field of these interacting forces. The sense of an independent I that chooses and owns these actions is the ego, the false center. Wisdom is the recognition that you are the witness of these operations, not the operator. You are the charioteer, Krishna, observing Arjuna, the mind-body apparatus as it engages with the world. When this identification shifts, action becomes spontaneous, egoless, and free. It flows from the intelligence of the situation itself, not from the cramped calculations of the personal self. Krishna then offers himself as the supreme example. As the Lord of all worlds, he has no personal need, no unfulfilled desire. Yet he is ceaselessly engaged in the act of sustaining the cosmos. If he were to abstain from action, he says, all worlds would perish. This is not a statement of divine vanity, but a metaphysical principle. The supreme consciousness is pure dynamic activity without any stain of selfish motive. It is the ultimate model for the embodied soul. Your work in the world should mirror this divine activity, a selfless, creative outflow of energy for the maintenance and elevation of the whole. Your daily life becomes your spiritual practice when performed with this attitude of cosmic stewardship. Therefore, the instruction is shockingly practical. Do your work, but conquer the enemy within, desire and anger. These are the twin forces that cloud discernment and bind you to the wheel of cause and effect. Desire is the feverish pull toward an object, anger the violent push away from an obstacle. Both arise from the same root, attachment to a personal, preferred outcome. They reside in the senses, the mind, and the intellect. The battle is to see them as forces of nature arising within your field, and to choose not to be commandeered by them. This is the moment-to-moment combat on Kurukshetra. You do not suppress desire and anger. You witness their fire, understand their source in unfulfilled craving, and let them pass through without granting them the authority to dictate your actions. Finally, Krishna delivers a devastatingly simple social truth. The ideal person, the wise one who acts from this place of freedom, sets the standard for all of society. People emulate what they see. If the so-called wise renounce action and sit in caves, the world follows into confusion and collapse. Your own self-mastery, demonstrated through dynamic, selfless engagement in the world, is therefore not a private achievement. It is a cosmic duty. It is a light that guides others, perhaps without a single word being spoken. Your victory in the inner war creates a ripple of order and clarity in the collective consciousness. So Arjuna, rise, fight, not for a kingdom but to uphold this sacred order within and without. Cast off this weakness of heart. It is unworthy of you. In this casting off, the act itself becomes the prayer. The yoga of renunciation, sannyasa yoga. Perplexed by the seeming duality between the path of knowledge and the path of action, Arjuna seeks clarity. Which is truly superior? Krishna's answer dissolves the artificial boundary between the two. He states that both lead to the same supreme goal, but of the two, the yoga of action, karma yoga, is easier and more practical for the embodied being. Yet he immediately defines the true renunciate, the sannyasi, in a revolutionary way. One who neither hates nor desires, free from dualities, is easily set free from bondage. The esoteric truth here is that renunciation is not an external event, the giving up of home, family, or possessions. It is an internal state of being. The true monk is not defined by ochre robes but by the inner detachment of the mind. One can live in a palace, engaged in the complex duties of a king or a warrior, and be a perfect sannyasi if their heart is free from clinging. This reconciles the paths. The knower, the jnani, sees the same self in all beings and all things. With this vision, even while acting, they are not acting. Their hands may perform 1,000 tasks, but their inner being remains as still and untainted as the sky, which holds clouds but is never held by them. The action does not stick to them because they do not claim authorship. They offer every movement into the boundless consciousness from which it arose. For such a one, the physical act of renouncing the world becomes redundant. The world has already been renounced in the most profound sense, at the level of identity. They are in the world but not of it. Their sanctuary is not a remote hut, but the unshakable fortress of self-knowledge within. Krishna then paints a portrait of this integrated sage, whose senses are perfectly disciplined not through suppression but through understanding. The sage withdraws their senses from sense objects as a turtle withdraws its limbs into its shell. This is not a permanent retreat, but a capacity for instant, conscious disengagement. The senses are instruments for navigating the world, not masters to be obeyed. The wise person enjoys the world with their senses, but the enjoyment does not generate feverish craving or aversive disgust. Pleasure comes, they taste it. Pain comes, they meet it. Both are experienced as passing weather patterns in the climate of the body-mind, while the inner sun of awareness shines on constant and undimmed. This equipoise is true renunciation in action. From this inner sanctuary, the sage perceives the underlying unity. They see with the eye of wisdom that the same divine consciousness is present in a humble cow, an elephant, a dog, and even in the one who feeds on the dog. This is not a sentimental egalitarianism but a piercing metaphysical insight. All forms are temporary manifestations of the same singular substance, Brahman. When you see this, how can hatred or exclusivity survive? The very concept of an other begins to melt. Your enemy on the battlefield is recognized as the self in another costume, playing a necessary role in the drama of your liberation. This vision does not negate the need for righteous action. You may still need to confront a harmful force, but it empties the action of personal malice. The battle becomes impersonal, a movement of cosmic justice, and you become its clear, compassionate instrument. Krishna then reveals the mechanics of inner peace for such a being. Their happiness is not derived from external sensory stimuli, which are fleeting and prone to induce habituation and thirst for more. Their joy is sourced within in the bliss of the self Atmananda. They sit focused on the self, delighting in the self. This is the state of Satchitananda, being consciousness bliss, experienced not as a philosophical idea but as a living reality. It is the end of seeking. With the mind and intellect anchored in this inner truth, all fears dissolve. The great fear of death holds no power over one who knows they were never born. The anxieties of loss, failure, and rejection cannot penetrate the citadel of a soul that knows its own infinitude. Therefore, the culmination of this yoga is a state of grace and effortlessness. The sage, having renounced the fruits of all actions through knowledge, attains peace, the abode of Brahman, not a location but a state of unification. They see the one, hear the one, know the one in everything. Their life becomes a seamless offering. Arjuna is being shown that his impending violent duty, when performed from this consciousness, is as sacred and pure as the meditations of the greatest ascetic. The outer form of life is irrelevant. The inner orientation is everything. The war is won not when the last external enemy falls, but when the last internal division is healed. When you can look upon friend and foe, success and failure, pleasure and pain with equal vision, you have taken the true vow of renunciation. You have become the living embodiment of freedom, and your very presence becomes a teaching. The yoga of meditation, dhyana yoga. Having established that the true renunciate is the one of equanimity, not the one who merely abandons action, Krishna now turns to the practical science of achieving that unshakable inner state, the yoga of meditation. He declares that the one who performs their duty without attachment to the fruits is both a renunciate and a yogi, not the one who merely lights no sacred fires and performs no rituals. But then he provides the crucial method. For the mind that is not yet steady, meditation is the means to yoke it to the self. This chapter is the masterful technical manual for the inner war, detailing how to train the greatest adversary and ally you will ever know, your own mind. Krishna begins with the fundamental qualification for the yogi, mastery over the self by the self. The self, the higher consciousness, must become the ruler of the lower self, the mind-body complex. He uses the beautiful metaphor of a lamp in a windless place. The flame does not flicker. So the disciplined mind of the yogi, absorbed in meditation on the self, becomes steady. But how does one reach this windless place? The first steps are profoundly practical and universal. One must be moderate in eating and recreation, disciplined in actions, and regulated in sleep and wakefulness. The esoteric truth is that meditation is not an isolated practice. It is the pinnacle of a holistic life of balance. A chaotic, indulgent lifestyle creates gusts of wind that will constantly disturb the lamp's flame, making deep concentration impossible. The setting for meditation is then described: a clean, solitary place, a firm seat, neither too high nor too low. This is both literal and symbolic. The clean, solitary place is first a physical environment of simplicity and quiet, but ultimately it refers to the inner sanctuary of a heart purified of malice and desire. The firm seat is the unwavering commitment to the practice itself. Posture should be steady and comfortable, the gaze focused at the tip of the nose, the senses and mind withdrawn inward. The instruction is to practice with a mind that is calm, fearless, and firm in the vow of celibacy, brahmacharya, which here means not merely sexual restraint, but the conservation and channeling of all vital energy toward the supreme goal. The yogi is an alchemist, turning the base metal of scattered life force into the gold of concentrated awareness. The goal of this practice is to still the restless, agitating mind, which Krishna admits is as difficult to control as the wind. But he immediately offers hope. Through constant practice and detachment, it can be done. This is the core of the spiritual endeavor, abhyasa and vairagya. Practice is the relentless daily returning to the focus, the mantra, the breath, or the contemplation of the self. Detachment is the letting go of every distracting thought, emotion, and sensory pull that arises. It is not a violent suppression, but a gentle, persistent disidentification. You watch the thought stream like clouds passing in the sky, without boarding any of the clouds and being carried away. Each time you return from distraction, you strengthen the muscle of awareness. This is the minute-by-minute battle on the meditation cushion, the essential training for the larger war of life. As the mind becomes tranquil, the yogi experiences the boundless joy that lies beyond the senses, a joy known only through direct intuition. Having attained it, they never stray from this truth, knowing it as the supreme acquisition. In this state, no worldly gain seems greater. Established thus, they are unmoved even by heavy sorrow. This is the practical fruit of the earlier teachings on the eternal self. Meditation is the laboratory where the theory becomes lived experience. The yogi tastes the bliss of the self, Atmananda, and that taste renders all superficial pleasures insipid. The hooks of the world lose their hold because the soul has found its true, satiating nourishment within. Krishna then delivers a pivotal democratic pronouncement. This yoga is attainable by anyone, by whatever path they travel, if they have faith and strive with self-control. But he warns of the fate of the one who begins the path with faith but falls away due to lack of discipline. Such a person, having tasted a higher reality but failing to stabilize in it, is caught between worlds. Yet even they are not lost. They are reborn into a conducive environment to continue their efforts. This speaks to the compassionate, long-term view of spiritual evolution. No effort is wasted. Every moment of sincere practice deposits a latent impression, samskara, that will bear fruit in due time. The path demands patience and perseverance, not perfection. Finally, Krishna declares that of all yogis, the one whose inner being is merged in the divine, who worships with unwavering faith, is the most intimate with him. This culminates the chapter's teaching. Meditation is not an end in itself. It is the process of intimate union yoga with the indwelling presence. The steady mind becomes a clear lens through which the light of the self shines forth unobstructed. The yogi sees the self in all beings and all beings in the self. Their vision becomes universal. For Arjuna, the implication is direct. You can fight from this unified vision. You can engage in the terrible duty of the battlefield from the serene, compassionate, and utterly fearless center of meditative equipoise. Your action becomes an expression of your deepest stillness. The war is not an interruption of your yoga, it is its ultimate test and expression. The yoga of wisdom and realization, Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Now Krishna prepares to reveal a deeper, more intimate layer of the truth. He promises Arjuna not just theoretical knowledge, Jnana, but a direct, experiential wisdom, Vijnana, a knowing so complete that once known, nothing else remains to be known. This is the shift from understanding a map to standing upon the territory itself. He begins by unveiling his dual nature, a lower, manifested nature and a higher, life-giving spiritual nature. The lower nature is the eightfold matrix of material existence: earth, water, fire, air, space, mind, intellect, and ego. This is Prakriti, the primal field from which all objective phenomena arise. It is the womb of all worlds, the divine Maya that gives birth to the endless diversity of forms. Know this, he says, as the source of all beings. But this is only half the picture. The higher nature is the very life principle, Jiva Buddha, the conscious spirit that upholds the entire cosmos. This is the pure Russia, the witnessing consciousness that animates the field of matter. All beings, from the smallest microbe to the mightiest deva, spring from the union of these two, spirit and nature. Krishna declares, I am the origin and the dissolution of this entire universe. There is nothing apart from him. This is the declaration of non-duality, Advaita. The countless forms are like pearls strung on the single thread of his being. The esoteric key here is to see the entire drama of creation, preservation, and destruction not as acts of a separate creator, but as the spontaneous play, Leela, of the one consciousness manifesting as the many. You are not a product of this play, you are the player, having temporarily forgotten your true role. Yet Krishna immediately acknowledges a profound mystery. Veiled by his own Yogamaya, his divine creative power, the world does not recognize him as the unborn, the imperishable. This Maya is not an illusion in the sense of something that does not exist. It is the reality-shaping power that makes the one appear as many, the eternal appear as temporal. It is the divine magic that conceals the magician within the trick. The deluded, overcome by the three gunas, the qualities of nature, inertia, passion, and harmony, do not look beyond the surface of things. They worship other gods, cling to rigid rituals, or pursue power and pleasure, all the while seeking the divine in fragmented forms, unaware of the ocean from which all waves arise. Their search, though sincere, is conducted within the dream, not for the dreamer. Who then can pierce this veil? Krishna describes the four types of people who approach him in devotion: the distressed, the seeker of knowledge, the seeker of wealth, and the wise. All are dear to him, but the wise one, the Jnani, who is ever steadfast and devoted to the one alone, is exceedingly dear, for that one has realized the supreme goal. After many lifetimes of striving, such a person finally understands. Vasudeva is all there is. They surrender to that truth utterly. Their devotion is not transactional. It is the natural love of the part for the whole, the wave for the ocean, the conscious recognition of one's source. They are rare, great-souled beings for whom Krishna becomes the sole refuge, the only thought, the ultimate beloved. Krishna then enumerates his most glorious manifestations to help the mind grasp the ungraspable. He is the intelligence of the intelligent, the splendor of the splendid, the strength of the strong free from desire and attachment. He is the seed of all beings, the timeless time, the all-devouring death, and the origin of things yet to be. He is the gambling of the cheat, the radiance of the radiant, victory, resolution, the goodness of the good. He is all that is and all that is not. This dazzling list is not meant to deify Krishna as a person, but to shatter the concept of a limited God. It is an invitation to see the divine presence as the essential quality behind every excellence, the primal force behind every phenomenon. The warrior's courage, the poet's beauty, the scientist's logic, the lover's devotion, all are streams flowing from his infinite reservoir. Thus, the chapter culminates in a call for exclusive, intelligent devotion. Those who worship the formless, unmanifest absolute also reach him, but the path is exceedingly difficult for the embodied. To fix the mind on the unmanifest, featureless reality is a tremendous feat. Therefore, Krishna recommends fixing the mind on him, on the personal aspect of the divine that contains all qualities, all forms, all love. This personal focus becomes the raft that carries the soul across the ocean of delusion. Know me as the origin of all, know all is woven in me, but with unwavering mind take refuge in me alone. This is the synthesis, the highest wisdom of non-duality married to the most intimate heartfelt devotion. Arjuna is being shown that to fight with wisdom is to fight for the divine order. To fight with devotion is to offer every action as a love offering to that which sustains all. The battlefield is thus sanctified. As every arrow released becomes a prayer. As the yoga of the imperishable absolute, Akshara Brahma Yoga. Arjuna, his curiosity now piercing the deepest mysteries, asks the questions that haunt every mortal heart. What is that supreme, imperishable reality, Brahman? What is the nature of the individual soul, the Adhyatma? What is action, karma? And what is the relationship of the divine to this material world? But his most poignant queries concern the moment of death. How can a yogi at that critical juncture remember the supreme and attain liberation? These are not academic questions. They are the ultimate practical concerns of a being who knows life is fleeting. Krishna's answers provide the esoteric science of conscious living and conscious dying, framing existence itself as a continuum of conscious choice. Krishna defines the terms with metaphysical precision. The supreme imperishable reality, Brahman, is the ultimate attributeless ground of being. The individual soul, Adhyatma, is the eternal fragment of that Brahman resident within the body field, the knower of the field. Action, karma, is the creative force that brings beings into existence within the material nature. This triune understanding provides the architecture, the absolute, the individual consciousness, and the dynamic principle that links them through experience. The material world is the realm of perpetual perishing, the ever-changing flow of phenomena. But the Lord, the divine person, is the supreme source and ruler of even this perishable realm, permeating and sustaining it while remaining transcendent. With this foundation, Krishna reveals the secret of the final thought. At the hour of death, whatever one remembers, whatever state of being one is absorbed in, that alone they attain. This is a cosmic law of consciousness, the ultimate fruition of the inner war. Your life is a process of cultivation. Your dominant thoughts, attachments, and identifications are the seeds you plant. At death, the most powerful of these seeds bursts forth, determining the next field of experience. The mind, in its final moments, rushes to that which it has cherished, feared, or contemplated most deeply throughout life. If your consciousness has been habitually fixated on sensory pleasure, anger, or greed, that vibration will propel you forward. If it has been steadfastly anchored in the divine, that union will be your destination. Therefore, the practice of the yogi is to cultivate that remembrance now in every moment. Krishna instructs Arjuna to remember him at all times and fight. This is the ultimate application of karma yoga and bhakti. To fix the mind and intellect on the divine, to offer every action, is to weave the thread of remembrance so strongly through the fabric of life that at the moment of dissolution it holds. The yogi who departs while remembering the Supreme with a mind steadfast in devotion, controlling the life force through yogic practice, attains him. The process is described: closing the gates of the senses, drawing the mind into the heart, fixing the life force in the head, and established in yoga, uttering the sacred syllable Om, which is Brahman itself. One who departs thus, thinking of the divine, goes to the supreme goal. Krishna then outlines the two fundamental paths after death. The path of light, the Dvayana, which leads to liberation and non-return, and the path of darkness, the Pitriyana, which leads to rebirth in the realms of mortal existence. These are not literal roads, but allegories for the soul's trajectory based on its spiritual maturity. Those who have realized the impersonal Brahman through knowledge and meditation take the bright path of the gods, ascending to regions from which there is no compulsory return to the cycle of birth and death. Those who perform good deeds but are still attached to worldly rewards and gods take the smoky path of the ancestors, enjoying celestial fruits before returning to earthly life. Both paths are within the cycle of time. Only the path of undivided devotion to the Supreme Person transcends even these cycles. To underscore the urgency of this choice, Krishna reveals the cosmic time scale. The wise who know the day of Brahma, 1,000 ages in length, and the night of Brahma, equal in length, understand the true nature of time. All beings arise from the unmanifest at the dawn of Brahma's day and dissolve into the unmanifest at the fall of his night. This vast perspective shrinks human concerns to their proper size. Your brief lifespan is but a flash within an unimaginable cycle. Yet within that flash, you have the power to choose the eternal. There is a higher, unmanifest reality, Krishna says, which is not dissolved even when all beings are dissolved. That is the supreme imperishable, the highest goal. That is my supreme abode. The chapter concludes with the ultimate promise. Attaining this supreme abode, beings are not subject to rebirth, the home of sorrow, which is impermanent. This is the final victory in the war within the soul, freedom from the compulsory round of becoming. All worlds, including the realm of Brahma, the Creator, are subject to recurring birth and death. But one who reaches Krishna, the divine source, does not take birth again. Therefore, Arjuna, fix your mind on me, devote yourself to me, sacrifice to me, bow to me. Having thus disciplined yourself with me as your supreme goal, you shall surely come to me. The instruction is complete. The method for life and death is given. The battle is no longer about territory. It is about using the intense concentration of that life and death moment to forge an eternal identity. Every moment of remembrance is a rehearsal for that final, liberating leap. It's the Rajavidya Rajagahya Yoga. Krishna now prepares to impart the knowledge he calls the royal secret, the most sovereign science, the supreme purifier. It is wisdom direct, righteous, joyous to practice, and everlasting. This is not a teaching for the casual inquirer or the faint of heart, but for the soul ready to receive the ultimate synthesis. He begins with a breathtaking declaration. He will speak this most secret knowledge, joined with direct experience, which will free Arjuna from evil. This knowledge is royal and secret not because it is withheld, but because its profundity is self-concealing. The unprepared mind glances off its surface, seeing only dogma or poetry. The ready heart, however, finds in it the master key to the universe. He reveals the entire cosmos as existing within him, yet he is not contained by it. Beings dwell in him, but he does not dwell in them. This is the mysterious non-dual relationship between the absolute and its manifestation, like space pervading a jar yet remaining unconfined by it. The beings move in him, propelled by the force of their own nature, their karma, which is his own lower energy. He is the impartial witness, the silent ground. He does not compel them, nor is he entangled in their actions. This understanding dissolves both the anxiety of a micromanaging God and the dread of a mechanistic, godless universe. Reality is a conscious, loving presence that grants you the absolute freedom of your own will, while holding you in an infinite, supportive embrace. Yet at the time of cosmic dissolution, all beings merge into his prakriti, his material nature. And at the beginning of the next cycle, he sends them forth again. Wielding his own prakriti, he projects the whole multitude of beings again and again, helpless under the sway of Maya. But these actions do not bind him, the unattached Lord, for he sits as if indifferent, watching the play of his own energies. This is the divine Leela, the play of consciousness. You are an actor in this play, but you have forgotten the script is your own heart's desire for experience. Your suffering arises when you, the immortal actor, become lost in the temporary role, believing the costume to be your true skin, the stage to be the only reality. Foolish people, disregarding him as he is in the human form, despise him, not knowing his higher nature as the Lord of all beings. Their hopes, actions, and knowledge are vain. They are possessed of demonic and deluding natures. But the great-souled ones, the Mahatmas, worship him with single-minded devotion, knowing him as the imperishable source of all beings. They glorify him always and strive with firm vows, bowing in devotion. Others too worship him as the one, as the distinct in many, as the manifold face of the divine in all. He is the ritual, the sacrifice, the offering, the medicinal herb, the sacred mantra, the clarified butter, the fire, and the act of offering itself. He is the father, mother, grandfather, and sustainer of this world. He is the knowable, the purifier, the syllable Om, and the sacred texts. He is the goal, the supporter, the Lord, the witness, the abode, the refuge, the friend, the origin, the dissolution, the foundation, the treasure house, and the imperishable seed. This staggering, all-inclusive list is designed to shatter every category. Whatever you hold as sacred, holy, or ultimate, Krishna declares, I am that. The purpose is to divinize the seeker's entire reality, to reveal the sacred shimmering within the so-called profane. Your daily meal can be an offering, your work a ritual, your breath a mantra, if performed with the consciousness that all is emanating from and returning to the one source. This knowledge turns the whole world into a temple and life itself into an unbroken act of worship. There is no place where the divine is not. There is no action that cannot be sanctified. The battlefield, with all its horror, is as much his sacred abode as the most serene mountaintop ashram. Krishna then makes an astonishing promise of cosmic hospitality. To those who worship him with love, he gives the yoga of discernment by which they come to him. Out of mere compassion for them, he, dwelling within their hearts, destroys the darkness born of ignorance with the shining lamp of knowledge. This is the most intimate guarantee. The seeker's sincere love activates the inner guide, Krishna, as the charioteer, who then illumines the path from within. The effort and the grace meet in the heart of devotion. Even the most sinful, if they worship him with unwavering devotion, are to be considered righteous, for their resolve is rightly placed. Quickly they become souls of Dharma and attain eternal peace. Therefore he urges, with a certainty that brooks no doubt, declare it boldly, Arjuna, that my devotee never perishes. Anyone who takes refuge in him, even those born of misdeed, women, merchants, laborers, and those of base birth, they too attain the supreme goal. How much more than the holy sages and devoted kings, having come to this transient, joyless world, worship him. Fix your mind on him, be devoted to him, sacrifice to him, bow to him. Thus, disciplining yourself and making him your supreme goal, you shall surely attain him, the supreme person. This is the royal secret, that unconditional love and surrender are the most powerful forces in the universe, capable of transcending all past karma, all social stigma, all personal failing. It is the ultimate democratization of divinity. The war within is won not by conquering, but by surrendering to the love that is your own deepest essence. It's the yoga of divine glories, Bhakti Yoga. To fortify Arjuna's faith and expand his vision to the breaking point, Krishna now unveils his divine manifestations, his vibhutis. He declares that even the gods and great sages do not know his origin, for he is the source of them all. Knowing him as unborn, beginningless, and the sovereign Lord of the world, one becomes free from all sin. This knowledge is not intellectual. It is a revelatory force that purifies the very substrate of the mind. Krishna lists these glories not to boast, but to perform a sacred function, to stretch Arjuna's conception of the divine from a personal charioteer to the infinite animating principle behind every excellence, every force, every archetype in existence. It is an exercise in cosmic recognition. He begins with the innermost essence of things. He is the self seated in the heart of all beings. He is the beginning, the middle, and the end of all that is. Amongst the Adityas, he is Vishnu; amongst lights, the radiant sun; amongst the Maruts, he is Marisai; amongst the stars, the moon. Amongst the Vedas, he is the Sama Veda; amongst the gods, Indra; amongst the senses, the mind; amongst living beings, the consciousness. This is the key. He is not the object itself, but the supreme quintessential expression of that category. He is Shiva amongst the Rudras, Kubera amongst the Yakshas, Vasava amongst the Vasas, Meru amongst the mountains. He is the priestly sage Brig amongst the great seers, the syllable Om amongst words, meditation amongst spiritual practices, and the Himalaya amongst the immovables. The list continues, overwhelming in its scope to break the boundaries of the mundane. He is the Ashvatha tree amongst trees, Narada amongst divine sages, Chitraratha amongst Gandharvas, the sage Kapila amongst the perfected ones. He is the thunderbolt amongst weapons, the cow Kamadhenu amongst cows, the progenitor Kandarpa amongst causes of progeny, Vasuki amongst serpents. He is the ocean amongst bodies of water, Brig amongst the great sages, the word Om amongst speech, prayer amongst rituals, the Himalaya amongst the stable. He is the lion amongst animals, Garuda amongst birds, the shark amongst fishes, the Ganges amongst rivers. Every item is a pointer, a finger directing the gaze from the manifestation to the sublime source of its power and beauty. The world is not separate from God. It is God made visible, God in specific, glorious form. Krishna then states the operational principle. Whatever being there is that is glorious, prosperous, or strong, know that to have sprung from a fragment of his splendor. This is the esoteric doctrine of the Vibhuti. The entire universe is a field of divine specialization. The courage of a hero, the genius of an artist, the compassion of a saint, the relentless force of a river, the steadfastness of a mountain, all are limited expressions of his infinite, undivided power. The error is to see these qualities as personal possessions, sources of pride or envy. The wisdom is to see them as divine loans, temporary focal points of the one light shining through a particular lens. Your own talents are not your own, they are His glory operating through you. This realization ends arrogance and fuels profound humility and gratitude. But what is the use of all this knowledge of divine manifestations? Krishna asks the question himself. He answers, with but a single fragment of myself I pervade and support this entire universe. The practical implication is immense. If a fragment has this power, then the whole is infinitely beyond comprehension. Yet this infinite whole is personally accessible. Arjuna does not need to comprehend the totality to benefit from the relationship. Steadfast faith and one-pointed devotion are sufficient. By loving the one source, you implicitly honor all its expressions. You no longer need to worship 1,000 separate powers for 1,000 separate boons. Fix your devotion on the one fountainhead and all streams are yours. The chapter culminates with Krishna turning the teaching back to Arjuna in a moment of intimate grandeur. He tells Arjuna that a full enumeration of his divine manifestations is endless. He has given these examples by way of illustration. Whatever being is endowed with glory, grace, or vigor, know it to be a product of a fraction of his splendor. But in truth, what need is there for this detailed knowledge, Arjuna? I support this entire universe with just a single fraction of myself. The message is clear. Theological cataloging is less important than the living relationship. The purpose of revealing these glories is to inspire awe, to create a sense of the sacred in all things, and to lead the devotee back to the singular, personal source of it all, the Lord who stands before him as friend and charioteer. Thus the yogi is invited to see the world with new eyes. Every instance of power, beauty, intelligence, and order becomes a signpost pointing home. The enemy general on the battlefield in his martial prowess is also a manifestation of a fragment of that divine splendor. This does not negate the need for action, but it transforms the quality of engagement. You fight not against a hated other, but against a force of ignorance that has temporarily commandeered a spark of the divine. Your reverence for the source allows you to engage the manifestation with clarity, without hatred, and with a sorrow that is cosmic, not personal. The war becomes a sacred, sorrowful necessity within the drama of consciousness, and your role within it is sanctified. It's the yoga of the cosmic vision, Vishvarupa Darshana Yoga. Moved beyond words by the revelation of divine glories, Arjuna makes a supreme request. He asks to see Krishna's universal form, the Vishvarupa, the Ishvara Swarupa, if Krishna thinks him capable of beholding it. This is the pinnacle of the Gita's mystical revelation, the shift from hearing about God to seeing God not as a separate entity, but as the totality of existence itself, in all its terrifying and glorious dynamism. Krishna agrees, but he cautions that ordinary eyes cannot see this. He bestows upon Arjuna a divine eye, a supernatural faculty of spiritual perception. This eye is not a physical organ, but the awakened intuitive vision, Jnana Chakshu, that sees the underlying reality behind the veil of appearances. Arjuna is about to receive a glimpse of the cosmos from the perspective of the Creator. What follows is arguably the most awe-inspiring theophany in all of world literature. Krishna reveals his supreme universal form, infinite, containing all wonders, unlimited, with faces and eyes on all sides. He wears divine ornaments and holds celestial weapons. He is garlanded with divine flowers, anointed with heavenly perfumes, all wonderful, brilliant, boundless, with faces on every side. If 1,000 suns were to rise simultaneously in the sky, their light might approximate the splendor of that great being. In that form, Arjuna sees the entire universe with its manifold divisions gathered as one in the body of the God of gods. This vision dissolves the boundaries of space and time. Past, present, and future coexist within that single, all-encompassing gaze. All beings, all worlds, all possibilities are present simultaneously in the divine body. Arjuna, overwhelmed, begins to describe what he sees. He sees all the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with hosts of kings and warriors, rushing into the countless mouths of that cosmic form, their heads being crushed by terrible teeth. He sees them like many rivers flowing into the ocean, like moths rushing into a blazing flame to perish. He sees the Lord devouring all the worlds with flaming mouths, licking them from every side. His splency burns the entire universe, filling it with radiance. The vision is not one of benign, comforting unity. It is the raw, unfiltered truth of cosmic digestion, the process of creation and destruction as a single, relentless, impersonal activity. The Lord is not just the giver of life. He is death himself, time, the great destroyer Kala, come to consume the worlds. Trembling with fear, his hair standing on end, Arjuna bows his head and with joined palms begins to speak in praise and terror. He sees all the gods and hosts of beings entering into the Lord. He sees the Lord with many arms, bellies, mouths, and eyes, touching the sky, radiant with the light of 1,000 suns. He sees the Lord encompassing all space, the points of the compass, and the whole world. This vision annihilates Arjuna's previous, comfortable conception of Krishna as his friend and cousin. The personal deity is now revealed as the impersonal matrix of reality, in which friend and foe are equally ingredients in a cosmic meal. The impending battle is already concluded. already being digested in the belly of time. From this perspective, Arjuna's personal dilemma is absurdly minuscule, yet it is also a necessary, sanctioned movement within the whole. Arjuna pleads for understanding. He asks, "Who are you so fierce in form?" He begs for mercy, wanting to know the truth of this terrifying vision. He sees all the warriors of the Kuru army rushing headlong into the Lord's mouths to perish. He sees some stuck between the teeth, their heads being crushed. He understands that all these warriors, already destroyed by the Lord's blazing mouths, are but instruments whose time has come. The Lord is the supreme enjoyer and the supreme object of all sacrifice, the ancient protector of the eternal Dharma. Arjuna then begs for forgiveness for the casual familiarity with which he has treated Krishna, not knowing this glory. He asks the Lord to resume his gentle, four-armed form, or even better, his familiar two-armed human form. The human soul, confronted with the Absolute in its naked majesty, instinctively recoils, seeking the comfort of relationship, of form, of a love it can comprehend. Krishna compassionately reassures Arjuna. He reveals this supreme universal form, which is very difficult to see through his own yogic power. Neither by study of the Vedas, nor by sacrifice, nor by charity, nor by rituals, nor by severe austerities can this form be seen in the world of men. Only by unwavering devotion can he be known, seen, and entered into. The vision is a gift of grace granted because of Arjuna's love. Then Krishna resumes his pleasant human form, calming the terrified warrior. This return is as significant as the revelation. It signifies that the infinite willingly confines itself to the finite for the sake of love and relationship. The absolute truth is that all is God, but the functional truth for the embodied soul is that God is also the personal friend, the indwelling guide. One must know the infinite majesty to surrender completely, but one relates to the personal aspect to cultivate that surrender with a loving heart. Thus, the purpose of the cosmic vision is twofold. First, to shatter all remaining vestiges of duality and personal attachment in Arjuna. From the perspective of the Vishvarupa, the battle is already over. He is merely the instrument through which a cosmic law executes itself. His personal guilt is irrelevant. Second, to instill in him a sense of awe and reverence that will make his subsequent action an act of worship to the Supreme, rather than a personal endeavor. Having seen that all beings, including his enemies, are already within and of the Lord, he can fight without hatred, perform his duty as an offering to the very consciousness that animates his foes. The war within reaches its climax here, the complete death of the separate self, followed by its rebirth as a conscious, willing limb of the cosmic body. Arjuna is now ready to act not as an individual, but as a cell in the divine organism, executing its will with perfect equanimity. The yoga of synthesis, the path of the integrated heart. Arjuna, still reeling from the cosmic vision, asks the pivotal human question: which devotees are most dear to you, those who worship you as the personal, formful God, or those who pursue the impersonal, formless Absolute? Krishna's answer is a masterpiece of spiritual psychology. Both paths lead to the same goal, he says, but the path to the formless is arduous and painful for the embodied being who must struggle to fix the mind on the unmanifest. Therefore, he declares, "Fix your mind on me, surrender all actions to me, and take refuge in me with unwavering devotion." Those who do so are exceedingly dear to him. This is not a dismissal of the impersonal truth, but a compassionate acknowledgement of the human condition. The heart needs a focal point, a relationship, to channel the immense energy of love and surrender. The personal form is the doorway through which the finite soul can approach and eventually merge with the infinite. Krishna then describes the qualities of such a true devotee, creating a portrait of the integrated human being that synthesizes all previous yogas. They are without hatred toward any being, friendly and compassionate, free from possessiveness and ego, balanced in pleasure and pain, forgiving, ever content, self-controlled, firm in resolve, with mind and intellect offered to the divine. They do not agitate the world, nor are they agitated by it, free from joy, envy, fear, and anxiety. They are pure, skillful, unconcerned, untroubled, renouncing every undertaking for personal gain. They neither rejoice nor hate, nor grieve, nor desire, renouncing both good and evil, full of devotion. They are equal to friend and foe, equal in honor and dishonor, the same in heat and cold, pleasure and pain, free from attachment, silent and content with anything. This is not a list of separate virtues but the flowering of a single root, the unshakable abidance in the self, expressed as selfless love in the world. The devotee is the living embodiment of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga fused into one. The practical instruction is profoundly simple yet all-encompassing. Dedicate your mind and intellect to me. You will then dwell in me without doubt forever. If you cannot do this, then seek to reach me by the constant practice of meditation. If you are unable to practice even that, then dedicate all your works to me. Even this will lead you to perfection. And if you are incapable of even this, then take refuge in me alone, relinquishing the fruits of all actions, disciplining yourself with wisdom. This is the ultimate grace, a ladder of practice offered for every capacity. Knowledge is better than mere ritual, meditation is better than knowledge, and renunciation of the fruits of action is better than meditation, for peace immediately follows such renunciation. But above all these, says Krishna, is loving devotion. For the devotee is supremely dear to him, and he is supremely dear to the devotee. The war within finds its ultimate resolution not in a technique, but in a relationship of surrendered love that consumes all separation. The field, the knower, and the supreme person, the final liberation. Krishna now delivers the final synthesizing wisdom, distinguishing between the field Kshetra and the knower of the field Kshetrajna. The field is the body, the senses, the mind, the elements, the ego, the intellect, the undifferentiated primal nature, everything that is objective, observable, and mutable. It is the entire realm of experience, the stage of Prakriti. The knower of the field is the conscious witness, the immortal soul, the pure awareness that illuminates this field. This is you, the true self, the pure Russia. To know both the field and the knower is true knowledge. This discriminative understanding is the sword that severs the soul's identification with the body-mind complex. You are not the drama of thoughts and sensations. You are the silent screen upon which they are projected. He elaborates on the nature of this knowledge. It involves humility, non-violence, forgiveness, simplicity, service to the teacher, purity, steadfastness, self-control, dispassion toward sense objects. Absence of ego, perception of the evil in birth, death, old age, and sickness, non-attachment, non-identification with son, wife, home, and the like, constant equanimity toward desirable and undesirable events, unswerving devotion to me with singular focus, love for solitary places, distaste for crowds, constancy in self-knowledge, and perception of the end of true knowledge. This is the practical manifesto for the warrior of light. The knower, though present in every body, is unattached and actionless. As the sun illuminates the whole world, so the knower illuminates the entire field. Those who perceive with the eye of wisdom this distinction between the field and the knower and the liberation of beings from Prakriti attain the supreme. But Krishna then reveals the highest synthesis, the crown of the Gita's teaching. Beyond the duality of field and knower, there is the supreme person, Purushottama. He is the all-pervading Lord who sustains both the perishable field Prakriti and the imperishable knower, the individual soul. He is the transcendent third, the ground of both matter and spirit. By knowing this, one attains devotion to him and enters into his very being. This is the final resolution. The soul Jiva realizes it is not the field, discovers itself as the knower, and then recognizes that both field and knower are held within the embrace of a single, loving, supreme reality. You are not just the witness. You are a fragment of the supreme witness. You are not just free, you are home. The chapter in our esoteric guide concludes with the image of the one reality appearing as all beings, yet distinct from them. It is the supporter of all, the devourer and generator of all. It is the light of all lights, beyond darkness, knowledge itself, the object of knowledge and the goal of knowledge, seated in the hearts of all. The war within the soul ends with this realization. The integrated devotee, having traversed the battlefield of duty, knowledge, meditation, and devotion, now stands firm in the wisdom of the Supreme Person. They act in the world, but from the unshakable foundation of knowing what is real and what is transient. They see the same essence in a blade of grass and a king, in a friend and a foe. Their life becomes a conscious expression of the divine play. They fight if they must, but the fight is over. The victory was never in the outcome, but in the realization of who they truly are, eternal, indivisible, and free. The chariot rests. The horses are still. The charioteer smiles. The warrior at last is peace. And so the battlefield falls silent, not from an end to conflict, but from the soul's victory over the noise within. The chariot of your body remains, but you are no longer its passenger. You are the charioteer, the silent witness, the unbounded space in which the entire play unfolds. Remember, this war is not fought once, but in every moment of choice, in every breath where you choose awareness over reaction, love over fear, the eternal over the ephemeral. Your life is your Kurukshetra, and the divine guide awaits your question in the quiet center of your being. Ask it. If this journey into the hidden architecture of the soul has illuminated your path, please help this light reach others. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to join our fellowship of seekers. Your engagement is more than a click. It is a signal across the subtle web of consciousness that the ancient wisdom is finding ready hearts. Drop a comment below, share your insight, your battlefield, your question, and let it be the seed for our next exploration into the mysteries. The dialogue, like the Gita itself, is eternal. Thank you for watching.